Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our next guest is one of the few pediatric palliative care doctors in the country. And though he helps families through extremely difficult times, he's learned a lot from them too. We welcome the author of Because I Knew You, How Some Remarkable Sick Kids Healed a Doctor's Soul, Robert Macauley. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
First, explain what pediatric palliative care is all about.
So a lot of people have misunderstandings about palliative care. They think it's all about death and dying. And while we do certainly take care of kids at the end of their lives, we try to help kids and their families through the entire course of serious illness. And we hope that they get better, because that's the best part of our job is when someone says to me, we don't need you anymore. At the same time, we recognize that while no child should ever die, some do, and we try to support them and their families through the most difficult of times.
How did you get into this line of work?
It was a bit of a meandering story for me. So I did a combined medical school divinity school program, so I'm also an Episcopal priest, and I was trying to figure out a way to combine the two things that I loved the most, and I ended up finding palliative care because it's really about taking care of the whole person, not just their body.
And what is it about you? Because you have a way with people, with families. It seems to me when you write about the families, you make them feel extremely comfortable, and that people are listening to them, because that's a part of it as well.
It is, and I want to be really clear. Like, I do palliative care, but I'm part of an amazing team. They oftentimes talk about palliative care being a team sport. So you can't just be a doctor doing palliative care. You need chaplains and social workers and nurses to provide that sort of wraparound care that families deserve. But one of the things we do is we spend a lot of time listening. So there's been studies done that show that physicians tend to interrupt patients after about 11 seconds. So if I ask you a question and you're not telling me what I want you to tell me, I'm going to redirect you. That's the way we're trained as physicians. But in palliative care, we ask, how are you doing, or tell me about yourself, and we let people take the conversation where they need to take it, because I might not know the right question to ask, and they're going to tell me what's important to them.
Tell me about Grace.
So Grace was an amazing kid. I met her when she was about 15 years old. She had been dealing with a very serious kind of cancer called neuroblastoma, and she had beaten the odds for so many years, and finally we ran out of treatments. And it was clear that she was dying, and she wanted to do certain things in life, and she knew that time was short. And one of the things she always wanted to do, she was an amazing actress in high school, she wanted to go see Broadway. And so some incredible people came together and arranged for her to have a private jet sponsored by a foundation in Burlington, Vermont, where she lived, to fly her down to New York City, where she met with the cake boss, went on the set of the cake boss, Buddy Valastro.
Great. Yeah, how awesome is that?
He was incredible. Rolled out the red carpet for her, and then got to go see Wicked with her mom and two nurses who were along for the trip, and had a backstage tour. And I was really just along for the ride. Sometimes I thought to myself, I'm really just the muscle here. I was the only guy. I picked her up and carried her from place to place when her wheelchair couldn't take her there. And she had the most amazing weekend. And I'll always remember it was one of the most powerful moments of my career. She had gone to see her at the show, she had seen the cake boss, we were about ready to fly back to Vermont, and we went to FAO Schwartz, the world's most famous toy store, and it was clear that she was getting really tired. And so we just found a little corner and we sat down. She was in her wheelchair, I sat on the floor next to her, and she dozed a little bit because she was so exhausted, but she had had the most incredible weekend. And then we flew back to Vermont. And she ended up dying in the hospital the next day. And a lot of people, no matter how brave they are, their disease is so powerful that they sort of fade away over time. And she never faded away. She just grabbed onto life and lived her best life up until the very end. And she still inspires me.
What would you say your goal is when you go to meet a family? Is it accepting your fate if they truly have a deadly illness? I mean, how do you have that discussion? Because you have to be ready for, you have to make them ready for death, right? Is that what?
Well, I don't know if I can make anybody ready for death. But what I can do is I can companion them along with the other members of my team along the way. And one of the differences between adult palliative care and pediatric palliative care is with adults, you can try to draw some meaning out of a full life well lived. Like, every death is a cause for sadness when you want that person to still be with you. But if you have an 80-year-old, you could talk about what that person has done with their life and talk about what their accomplishments are. When someone is a child, they haven't had a chance to live the life that they were meant to live. And so we have to sit with the injustice of that for a lot longer. So we don't make people come to understand something, but parents get it.
Yeah.
Even if they say, I can't bear to go there, part of them is always thinking
know.
about what's happening with their child. And
Right.
they know their child better than anybody. So we're there for them to talk about the things that are really hard.
You mentioned something in the book that you say you haven't told most people, or many people, and it's about your childhood.
Yes.
And you were abused as a child.
Yes.
Is that in some way a way you can relate to kids a little bit more? I mean, how do you use that?
I think it motivates me. I know what it's like to hurt as a child in a different way than the kids that I treat, and I don't mean to compare or certainly sort of equalize what I experience to what they are going through,
Sure.
because they're facing life-threatening illness. But I think that that inspired me to try to do this work and to try to make sure, as I say in the book, that no other child hurts the way that I did.
Right. Is it different working with families who are religious versus families who are not religious?
It can be, although I think everyone has their own spirituality.
Sure.
So while I'm an Episcopal priest, so I have this sort of ecclesiastical role, I don't bring that to the work that I do. We have a wonderful chaplain on our team, and we address the spiritual needs of patients and families. I think that I just maybe recognize and I'm more attuned to the spiritual nature of suffering,
Right.
maybe more than some of the people in my medical profession.
I'd like you to tell the story about the triplets.
Yeah, that was a very powerful story. So I was at home one night on a Friday, and I got a call from the hospital that triplets were about to be born. And they were born so early, at about 5.5 months of the 9 months of normal pregnancy, that there was no way they were going to survive. But the parents said, we want to try everything, and I couldn't blame them for that. I would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
And they knew the odds, but they were like, we can't do anything else. Like, how can we not try? And so I talked to them many times over the course of several hours about what the probabilities were, and none of it was resonating. And then finally, I said something that I had never actually said to anybody. I'd actually never thought of before. And when the parents were sitting there and they were just grieving already for their children. And I said, look, no matter what we do, your children are going to die.
Yeah.
They're either going to die in the ICU with a lot of tubes and after a lot of procedures, or you can hold them for their entire lives. And that's not ever a saying that I had thought of before.
No.
And it felt like it changed the tone in the room. And they realized, they went from going from a place of, we can't not try because what do we got to lose?
Right.
To saying, actually, we do have something to lose.
Right.
And that's what they chose, and they held their babies for their entire lives.
Yeah. That's incredibly powerful. When you go home at the end of a day, how are you feeling? Grateful for your experiences?
I feel a lot of things all at the same time.
Yeah.
I hug my kids. I have 4 kids. I hug them a lot for reasons they don't always understand.
Sure.
And I feel incredibly grateful for all the blessings of life because I know how fragile it is.
Right.
But it's hard. Like, this is unnatural work in the sense that
Right.
most people don't lose people they love as frequently as people in my line of work do, and it can be hard.
Absolutely. We want to tell everyone the book is called Because I Knew You, How Some Remarkable Sick Kids Healed a Doctor's Soul. Dr. Macauley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Helen.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.